Hi everyone, Jeff Cote here with boatingtechtalk.com. So we've got a question from a fellow boater, Alan. Alan has a Tideline 365, and here's a little bit of the scenario. Alan likes to go fishing overnight and also wants to have the benefit of running live wells, radar, and electronics. Okay, I have a 1,000 to 2,000 watt pure sine wave inverter. Good, pure sine wave is definitely the way to go, especially nowadays. It's got a charger and a transfer switch. Okay, so it's 1,000 to 2,000 watt, either one of those, but the charger is probably going to be around 80 to 100 amps on a 2,000 watt or 40 and 50 amps on a 1,000 watt. 2-star batteries, okay, 2 house batteries, all right, group 27 or 31. Okay, so far, pretty small house batteries considering that especially if it's a 2,000 watt inverter. 1,000 watt inverter, not so bad, but 2,000 watt inverter on 2 group 27 or 31 batteries, that's a lot. Okay, that's a big inverter on a small battery bank. I also have a microwave and a coffee maker. This boat is packed with goodies. All right. If draining the batteries, I would like to bring a small Honda generator to charge the batteries without having to start the engine. Pretty common. So that little Honda generator, the Suitcase one, or others like it, are generally around, again, the specs are changing, and I don't follow this crazy, but they're around 2,000 watt. And some of them are not rated for 2,000 watt continuous, but 2,000 watt peak. So again, it doesn't matter. You're generally going to be able to get maybe 10, 11 amps, maybe a little bit more out of one of those. So you need to make sure that your inverter charger is not going to draw more than 11 amps because it could trip. And I've seen that on my boat, Testify. Because, remember everyone, I'm actually also doing what we're all doing, which is trying to get more out of my boat. And I've been trying to do it on my boat and other people's boat for a few years now. And that's what I'm sharing with you today. So again, not uncommon to do a Honda generator as a way to recharge the batteries. And so realistically, you can probably get a 50 amp charger from a Honda 2000 generator. What is the limiting factor on this setup? Well, there's a few things that were open-ended. It might be a 1,000 watt inverter or 2,000 watt inverter. So that's one thing. The other thing too that Alan didn't talk about is not having a battery monitor. I'm a huge believer, and I have sold thousands upon thousands and thousands of battery monitors because I believe that there's no sense in life in feeling lost when you can know where you are, right? Why go in the backcountry without a GPS and settle? Why settle for a compass? Nothing wrong with a compass. I know how to use a compass, but if I can have a GPS and it can tell me exactly where I am, why have to do a fix on myself with 3 bearings when I can do it instantly with a GPS? Of course, you should know how to use it. And and by the way, in this analogy, because I love analogies, the voltmeter is effectively, it's a crude indication of capacity, like a compass is. Now, of course, if you know what you're doing with a compass, you're going to be pretty accurate. But remember, the benefit of a battery monitor here is it would actually tell you what the capacity of your batteries are. So the first thing that's great about that is it's going to tell you when you're beneath 50% on the depth of discharge, which is super important. And then it's going to tell you when you need to start running the generator. And at one point, when you're about 80, 85% of capacity, you got to stop running the generator because you're wasting your time because you're in absorption. So if you want to geek out on this whole 3-phase charging, which is bulk, absorption, float, there are certain limitations of the battery. Batteries are a lot like people. We start off with a big appetite, then it tapers off, and then we can sustain it. That's what being French is, a 7-course dinner. Course 1 to 4, just go in like that. 5, 6, slows down. 7, you don't think you can do it, but you keep powering through. And charging your batteries is the same thing. So you get more bang out of the buck out of charging the batteries in bulk than you do absorption or float. So if you're away and you're trying to recharge your batteries, a battery monitor would tell you when to stop charging because you're getting diminishing returns. That's one thing. Next thing is a group 27 or 31, based on everything you're doing, I would look at expanding my battery bank. I know it's going to be probably hard and most of us can't do it, but if you can find a way to make that house battery bank like 4 golf cart batteries, and I know there's weight and there's space issues, but if you can, strongly suggest to have 4 golf cart batteries. Because remember, 2 Group 31 batteries is effectively only 2 golf cart batteries in terms of capacity. And if you're using my math and you can only use a third of that capacity, that's 66 amp hours. Let's call it 200 amp hours, maybe 230. You divide that number by 3 because you can only use about a third. That gives you about 70 amp hours. 70 amp hours of capacity is not a lot of capacity. It isn't. So another thing here that I would look at in your boat, I would look at increasing the battery capacity on the house. Now that I would have that, I would make sure that I can also rate limit my inverter charger. So I can say, by the way, you only have 10 amps of AC, so it doesn't constantly trip the breaker. Because otherwise, and I'm talking about the breaker on your Suitcase generator. So if you're going to have a Suitcase generator, make sure that you have the ability of limiting your charge rate by limiting it to only take about 10 amps. You might be lucky, some of them will allow you to go in increments of 1. You might be able to pull 11 amps from that, maybe. And some of you might say, you know, my generator that I used was a few years ago, so it might have changed, but you're not going to be able to run a 2000 watt, 100 amp charger off a 2000 watt Suitcase generator. That won't happen. That's what I do. And apart from that, make sure that you have isolation, and you probably do on your starter circuits, and that they are definitely not part of your house circuit. The other thing that I often too much see is that there are certain loads that are actually running off the engine battery, and that's always disconcerting because when you're at anchor for a period of time, or again, maybe you're running the engines, maybe you're not, you don't want your engine batteries to ever have any house loads. So make sure that when you're running your house loads, none of those loads are running off the engine battery. And a way to look for that would be either a clamp-on meter or look at the battery voltage. And the battery voltage, once it reaches on your engine battery 12.6 or 12.8, it should never go to 12.5 if you're not running a load off that battery, period. If you see 12.5 or 12.4, or God forbid 12.3 on an engine starting battery and you're not using it and your engine is not running, you have a load on your starter battery. Now, if your boat is 24 volts, just double. So you do 2 times 12.3, 24.6. You know, 25 volts is 12.5 at 12. So at 25 volts on a 24 volt system, you're in trouble. Or 12.5, again, your at rest starting battery voltage should never, ever go below 12.5. And if it does, it means that you probably have some sort of load on that battery and you want to find it. So great question, Alan. Awesome question. And thanks for asking. And for all of you who are curious on more stuff about battery monitors, there's a whole section on our website just on battery monitors because, as I've told you, I love battery monitors. There's a whole section as well, and we've got articles on Suitcase generators. And we've also talked about sizing chargers to Suitcase generators. And if you're wondering about bulk absorption float, the 3-phase charging, there's also probably, honestly, 100 articles on our website on that very topic. And geek out and get your boat better. Thanks for watching. Thank you for watching this PYS video. If you've got further questions, please ask them below or send us an email via the contact forms on our website. Happy to donate my time to share information with you. You can support us in keeping this channel ad-free by purchasing some merchandise on our store or by making a donation on PayPal. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks again for watching.